Eric, hey, awesome. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much. It's really great seeing you, and I'm really impressed with your story as well.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I feel like I have a special kinship with anybody who's reversed a chronic disease using a plant-based diet. Right? I feel like we've been through something that I wouldn't wish on anybody, but there's a certain knowingness you have when you've been through all that. So,
We, we have a kindred spirit.
yeah, yeah. So you've got a book that just came out called Healthy at Last.
Yes.
And I don't want to give too much away. Why don't you tell people what the book's about and a little bit about how you came to write it?
Yes, no, thank you so much. And this is the cover of it, and it's really, it's my story and my journey. And my goal was to really have people know that, one, there is nothing special about me. Sometimes we look at the title of people, their titles, and we think that all of a sudden they don't have the same lumps and bumps that really go with life. And I wanted to just dig into, 4 years ago, about 3.5 years ago, I had the same diabetes that 30 million other Americans have as well. Lost my sight in my left eye. I was losing in my right. I had permanent nerve damage in my hand and feet that could lead to amputation, as well as my right thigh. Mm-hmm.
And just to interrupt you, like when I read the book, like the first indication that you even had diabetes was you woke up one morning and you couldn't see, right?
Exactly. The alarm clock was all blurred, and I was like blown away. I thought it was just sleep in my eyes, just to learn that this was late stages, or I should say advanced stages of diabetes. The high blood pressure, high cholesterol. I had the ulcer was what drove me to the doctor's office. I had a discomfort in my stomach that I thought was colon cancer. Actually, it turned out to be a bad ulcer. And as many of us, your doctors tell you, here's your prescription, go fill it, and this is your life story. And because I decided to really look deeper, and I went to Google that day, doctor, and I just put in one word: different. I put in, instead of living with diabetes, what all of the doctors told me, I put in reversing diabetes. And that sent me down a different trajectory. And I met some great doctors, Dr. Esselstyn, Dr. Bonner, Dr. Gregis, and others. And I started a whole food plant-based diet. 3 weeks after starting, my vision came back. 3 months later, my ulcer was gone. My nerve damage was gone. The diabetes was actually in remission.
And that's something that the drugs can't do, right?
No, they cannot.
They told you, like, we'll do our best to slow it down with the drugs, but you're going to be living with the rest of your life. You're going to be taking these drugs the rest of your life. And I guess something kind of didn't sit right with you like that. You were like, well, I don't know. Maybe there's something else out there. Like, what was that process where you said, I want to believe you, doctor, but I need to figure out if there's another way. Like, how did that come about?
It was really my son. My son said to me when I first told him I was diabetic, to go further, and really he was inspiring. And it was really sitting down at the computer and just really I said to myself, I said, wait a minute, Eric, you're not a doctor, but you're an ex-cop. You know how to do investigations, and you know how to read. So this is not, something that's a part of a secret society. And I saw that what they were giving me in the areas of medicine was really just covering the symptoms. It wasn't healing me. And there's a difference between being healed and just covering your symptoms. And so the slowing down was really slowing down the presence of your symptoms. It wasn't like it was slowing down the diabetes, because I was keep doing the things that was causing the diabetes. It was going to continue to stay here.
Yeah, it's a concept that it's like, it's simple to me now, but at the time, a lot of people they're just told by their doctor, like, well, this is what you got to do, and there's no cure, and just keep taking the drugs. But you had seen it in your family, right? Like, oh, a lot of people in your family had this, so you kind of had to have guessed it was coming eventually, right?
Without a doubt. You know, it's interesting that you say that, because when I was told by the doctor, there was a moment that I said to myself, well, Eric, you knew this was coming. You know, your mother's diabetic. She was diabetic for 15 years, 7 years on insulin. My sisters and brothers were all going through healthcare crises, from breast cancer to kidney, losing a kidney, to chemo. We were benchmarking our lives by who had the next surgery or who had the next diagnosis, and just expecting it to come. We thought that part of you know, moving up in life and aging was really part of having a chronic disease. Like so many Americans, we think chronic disease means when you reach a certain age. That's why doctors and hospitals and medical professionals say, when you get 50, go for this test. When you get 60, go for this test. Because they know if you stay on the American diet at a certain benchmark in a certain age group, it's going to start materializing. And my family was no different. But I'm happy to say 2 months after mom went whole food plant-based, she cycled off her insulin in only 2 months.
That's pretty wild. I got to say, though, the story of getting your vision back is probably, you know, the most inspiring for me. Because, yeah, I mean, people are losing toes, they're losing eyes, they're losing all kinds of body parts to this disease, and it doesn't really have to be, right?
So true, so true. And just think about it for a moment. The diabetes, which I consider to be the umbrella disease that other chronic diseases hide under, it's the leading cause of blindness, leading cause of non-trauma amputation, one of the leading causes of kidney failure, heart disease, and all of the others. And if we just tackle diabetes, we can tackle so much. So my doctors gave me medicine for my diabetes, medicine for the cholesterol, the ulcer, the blood pressure. I actually had 3 for the diabetes, when all they had to do was just give me the one plant-based. The one plant-based lifestyle changed the entire problem. I didn't need all the medicine. Imagine how much that saves. Instead of spending a countless number of dollars each year or each week on medicine, you can actually just have one prescription, and that prescription is plant-based, healthy food, and it's a win-win all the way around. Not only does it manage, but in many cases, it reverses your disease.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy. Diabetes is an expensive disease in this country because, like you said, once you get it, you have all these other diseases. And all those other diseases require other medications, other surgeries. And, you know, we're like, okay, how are we going to pay for healthcare? It's getting so expensive. And we're going to do Medicare for all. We're going to do single payer. Like, if we just did what you're talking about, like, we'd save so much money. We could give everybody healthcare real easy, right?
Right, right. So true. If we become more proactive than reactive, we can really manage our healthcare system, because right now it's not sustainable. When you think about, we're spending 80 cents on a dollar on chronic disease, 30 million Americans are diabetic, 84 million are pre-diabetic. Our children are really dealing with chronic diseases younger and younger. And I really want to show in my book, Healthy at Last, how do you make a real holistic approach to your wellness and not just falling into the sick care system, but how do you do the things with wellness that you don't have to be an expert? You don't have to have a lot of money. You don't have to have a gym membership. We lay out in the book what I did, and I wanted to do it on the cheap, because the average American, and you know, if you're struggling every day, you know, I can't tell you, well, make sure you go to your Whole Foods and get your fancy meal. People say, Eric, I don't have a Whole Foods on my block. You know, how do I talk to people in a real way in the inner cities of our country so they can see what's available to them and they can start turning around their health crises?
So Eric, so let's talk about what you used to eat. And I read about how, you know, when you were a police officer and you were working the night shift, it was just like junk food every 2 hours, right? But then you made a change, and you eat radically different than you used to. I want just a little contrast. Tell me about what Eric used to eat back when he was diabetic, and then what he ate to reverse the diabetes and now keep it away. Like, let's paint that picture for us.
No, so true. I was a fast food junkie back then, and particularly that my diet really was my way of self-medicating myself from the trauma and crises that I experienced. If you are a public servant, I don't care if you're a school teacher, a medical employee, a police officer, EMT, remember, no one is calling the police officer when the birthday party is going well. They call them when it's disrupted. And so if your life is filled with dealing with trauma that others are experiencing, you're going to also incorporate that. And I used to self-meditate myself with everything from pizza to steak to hamburgers. I was a master. I knew every dollar menu McDonald's in my precinct area or throughout the city. And it was really just fast, fried, processed, sugary, a lot of salt food, all the foods that really add to the physical trauma that my body experienced. Now, let's be clear. You eat a hamburger on Monday, you're not going to have diabetes on Tuesday. But it's the continuation of eating bad food year after year after year that eventually is going to come out some way.
Yeah, and just because you have quinoa on Monday doesn't mean you're going to be reverse diabetes on Tuesday.
Right.
So it's an accumulation of things. So tell us now about, what you do eat, and I really like your message about making it affordable. Like, it's definitely a way to do it, in an affordable way. And of course, when you're not spending a bunch of money on medications, then it's even more affordable. So tell us a little bit about whole food, plant-based. What does that mean for maybe people who aren't familiar with it? And what does a typical day of eating look like for you? What are your favorite foods now?
Oh, it's amazing. I remember the first week of going whole food plant-based and saying to myself, my food was so terrible when I was trying to cook before. This was my first shot at cooking. And I said to myself, wow, do I have to, do I have to eat this? It was just so awful. I used to make a morning cereal out of flaxseed, and I never grind the flaxseed. I would just mix it into the cereal. So it was horrendous. But the first week on Sunday, I sat down and I said, Eric, stop the woe is me and embrace why not me. And I leaned into it. I stopped looking at what foods I no longer were able to eat because it was causing my diabetes. And I started exploring all the food that was out there that I was missing. I started looking at all the spices that I ignored for years, looking at the different vegetables, the different fruits, going online and exploring the different recipes, different type of frozen desserts like banana and cacao powder, healthy, and berries. And I started really leaning into the pleasure. And now I look back, I was basically only eating 6 types of food changing to plant-based. Now my repertoire of food is almost 30, 40, 50 meals that I can make and I can try. And it's just a different experience. So I do a lot of grains and fruits and lentils, and a lot of sauces that I make special. I love hummus, and I created ways of doing different hummus made out of chickpeas, my fresh hummus. I make my own peanut butter made out of walnuts, and I mix in dates to give it a nice special taste. And so I found this new relationship with food that I would have never known before because I was stuck into the traditional American diet that was filled with salt, fried, processed, greasy, salty, sodium-based food. Those days are over. Read the labels better, understand what I'm eating, and I really enjoy it all the way.
So, and the book is called Healthy at Last, and you got tons of recipes in there, right?
Yes. We have some great recipes in the book. It is an opportunity. Even when you look at the menu, the meal on my cover, I love this meal that's here, but there's some amazing recipes in the book that we really want to show people how to take the recipes and then build off them. Because the goal is use the recipes as your base. Then you could put your own twist to it. You can make it culturally norm to the foods in your community or what you like. Because we all have unique taste buds, and you want to retrain your taste buds to really enjoy the quality of the food you're eating, not that it's overstimulated by so much sugar, so much fat. One of my friends, the pastry chef, shared with me when he studied in France, but when he came to America, he had to really pound so much sugar in his pastries because our tongues were just, our palates were just over saturated and stimulated with the amount of sugar we have in this country.
So, like you said in the beginning, the food didn't taste so good the first week. You're like, what am I doing? Am I really doing this? Am I going to go for this? But I imagine that over time, your palate has changed, and doing this has become a lot easier and a lot more enjoyable, right?
Oh, without a doubt, and creative. Prior to the call, to your Instagram call, I had this thing called a Buddha bowl, where I just mixed all my food in. I had a bowl of mushrooms, kale, a bunch of spices, cinnamon, turmeric, pepper, cayenne pepper, and just mixed in. I chopped up some fruit, some bell pepper, some lentil. I liquefied to make a sauce out of it. Put in a little flax seeds. Grind it this time. I grinded it this time. But just mixing everything in and looking at the beautiful colors as well as the taste that each one of the products produce in the meal. And it was just an amazing, full and filling meal, high in fiber. So I feel extremely full, but not weighted down, not bloated, not lethargic, but energized.
So I know that I was reading the book, and when you first got diagnosed, you had a hemoglobin A1C of 17, which is like, that's outrageously high. Like,
right,
you're lucky you weren't dead, right?
Yes.
And you reversed you got your vision back within a matter of months. How long did it take doing this program to get your A1C back down to normal level, like non-diet? How long did it take to reverse your diabetes, I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, every 3 months, I go in for my check with my doctor, my internist, and 3 months into going to my internist, when I went to his office, he first checked my numbers. He was like, wow, the medicine is working. And I gave him the full bottle of medicine that he gave me. But he also looked at my blood work and he says, Eric, you completely reversed your diabetes. At that time, it was down to a 5.7, which was an amazing drop to a pre-diabetes level. Coming from where I was at a level where he said, Eric, I'm surprised you're not in a coma. Your body is really, you're defying all the logics and odds of not being in a coma in the hospital right now. And so I caught it right on time. My body was not going to be able to sustain that level of blood sugar level that I was experiencing.
So Eric, let's get into this. You talked about how you want to make it affordable. You want to make it for everybody. You got somebody listening here, maybe they're type 2 diabetic, and they're like, yeah, that's good, eat healthier, but I don't know if I can get access to that kind of food. I don't know if I can afford to like eat kale and stuff like that. What's a way that that they can do it and it can be accessible to them and it can be accessible to everybody?
It's all about understanding the basics. I will encourage people to, read something like my book or other books, or there's a ton of information out on the internet now that really empowers people with some of the basic tips. I think that what my book is a real approach. I wanted to have a simple conversation of not talking down to people, but I want to expose myself. I wanted people to see that there was nothing perfect about me as a person or as an elected official, but I am an everyday human being that went through a crisis, and I decided to turn the pain of that crisis into purpose. And I wanted to have just a general, comfortable conversation like I was sitting in the living room of a friend, and that's what the book is about. But it's also showing people, what do? You don't have money for a gym membership? Let me give you some other ideas. The best gym you have available to you is called the stairs. You don't need a stairmaster. You have your own stairs you can climb. You know, you want to have some good meals, dry bag of beans. You get a dry bag of lentils, a dry bag of chickpeas. You could have a dry bag of chickpeas, and you can make chickpeas flour. You can make hummus, lentils. You can make lentil burgers, mix it with mushrooms. I want to show people how you can eat healthy and good, with good tasting food, and at the same time, it won't break the bank while you're doing it.
Awesome. Yeah, people need to hear this. I get criticized all the time myself, like, oh, all those fruits and vegetables, that must be expensive. So it's great that you're sharing this message that we want it accessible to everyone, because
Yeah.
if people do what you're saying, I mean, we spend 1 in 5 health Medicare dollars on diabetes. You know, if we could save that money, we could do so many good things with it, and we could help so many people. So I really appreciate you getting this message out here. The book is called Healthy at Last. Eric, anything else any parting words you want to leave with anybody? Anything else you want to share? Go right ahead.
I just want people to believe there's a person inside all of us that we long to have. We know who we are. We know who we want to be. And sometimes you move up in age and you tend to believe that life has passed you by. That is just so not true. That life is so much in front of you, just as it was behind you. You may hit a bump in the road, but a bump in the road is not the end of the road, as long as you make the turn. And I'm telling people, if it's reading Healthy at Last, if it's reading anything else, just make the turn. One day at a time, one step at a time. You don't have to be perfect. Just be committed to loving yourself again. And trust me, you're going to say, at last, my body feels the way I know it could have always felt.
Such a great message, Eric. Thank you. Great to interview you and connect. I want to wish you just the best of success of your book and getting your message out there. And yeah, thank you. Take care.
Thank you.